Last week, the Arab League met in Cairo to issue a formal rejection of US President Donald Trump's proposal to forcibly remove Palestinians from Gaza. The summit, attended by key US allies such as Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, was a decisive rebuke of Trump's vision to take over Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the Middle East. But such a cold-hearted plan, concocted by an imperialist mindset, depends on the large-scale transfer of Gaza's population, a feat that even a fierce 15-month genocidal war waged by the destructive Israeli killing machine failed to achieve. Moreover, it remains untenable without the cooperation of neighboring Arab states, which view the mass expulsion of Palestinians as a direct threat to their stability. A pragmatic reading of Trump's proposal is that he's taking a page from his own playbook as a long-time real estate tycoon and author of his bestseller, The Art of the Deal. In the book, Trump states that a successful negotiator must start with a maximalist position that scares the other party into making concessions before even negotiations begin. In this instance, Trump aims to achieve through political pressures what Israel couldn't accomplish militarily over 470 days of a vicious, destructive war. Israel's war had three primary objectives. First, the release of Israeli captives held by Hamas and other resistance groups without the need to release thousands of Palestinian prisoners. Second, the elimination of Hamas and other resistance groups as military entities. And third, the removal of Hamas from power in Gaza. Since none of these objectives were achieved, and as a war of attrition ensued for months, costing the Israeli regime thousands of casualties, Israel was ultimately forced to accept a plan incorporating all of Hamas's objectives. The agreement, which took effect on 19th of January, mandated a permanent ceasefire after the second phase, the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza, and the delivery of massive humanitarian aid, including food, water, fuel, tents, and medical supplies. It also outlined a genuine plan for Gaza's reconstruction within 5 years. Meanwhile, Netanyahu has been under immense pressure, both from the Trump administration, which seeks at least a temporary pause to recover hostages, and from his extremist right-wing partners who demand the war's continuation. Amidst these convoluted realities, Trump sought to bail out Netanyahu while putting Arab regimes on notice, particularly Jordan and Egypt, by calling on them to accept and absorb all Palestinians from Gaza. If they refuse, he insisted they must propose an alternative plan that aligns within his real objectives, which is disarming Hamas and removing it from Gaza. But such a proposition threatens to destabilize not only these countries, but the entire regional order. Transferring 1 million Palestinians from Gaza to the Sinai may relieve Israel of its obligations as an occupying power, but it would create serious security and social challenges for the Egyptian regime. Similarly, Jordan knows that accepting Palestinians from Gaza would set a dangerous precedent, making it only a matter of time before Israel forcibly transfers the majority of Palestinians in the West Bank across the Jordan River. This would pose an existential threat to the Hashemite kingdom. The final communique issued by the Arab Summit on March 4th called for the immediate implementation of the ceasefire agreement's second and third phases, including the complete withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza and the large-scale resumption of humanitarian aid to its suffering population. It also demanded a lifting of the siege on Gaza and reaffirmed the need for a political resolution based on the two-state solution. As the Israeli and American demand to remove Hamas from power in Gaza, the Arab plan adopted the Egyptian proposal to create a commission of technocrats to manage Gaza for a 6-month interim period under the auspices of the Palestinian Authority. For many analysts, one of the most striking aspects of the Arab League's proposal was the publication of a 91-page reconstruction plan for Gaza. The document provided a remarkable level of detail on how Gaza would be rebuilt and rehabilitated, outlining a 3-phase plan over a 5-year period. In a game of cards, players tried to conceal their hands in the hope of outplaying their opponents. But in this geopolitical game, The various actors are laying their cards on the table. The Israelis and their American allies seek to expel the Palestinians from Gaza, an elusive goal, I might add, that has failed despite 15 months of genocide waged by the Israeli regime. Though Arab regimes do not want a direct confrontation with Trump, they are equally unwilling to dig their own graves. They hope to pique his interest through arms and commercial deals, or by offering him other political victories, such as a normalization pact like the one he made called the Abraham Accords. Conversely, the current composition of the Zionist regime believes that with Trump in the White House and surrounded by the most Zionist and Messianic administration in history, it may be able to achieve its maximalist political objectives. These include eradicating resistance movements in the region and expelling as many Palestinians as possible to resolve its demographic problem and fabricate a Jewish majority, all while continuing to claim itself a democracy in a greater Israel. It further seeks to incapacitate Iran's nuclear program, force normalization deals on Saudi Arabia and other Muslim-majority states, restore its lost deterrence, and cement its regional hegemony. A staggering list of ambitions. If Netanyahu and his Zionist allies in the US insist on pursuing this ruthless campaign, they would have to persuade Trump to prioritize their belligerent objectives. But in his final term, Trump has little time to dismantle what he considers the US deep state, an entity he views as obstructing his domestic and international agenda. Trump's threats, hubris, and bombastic rhetoric will not compel others to bow to his wishes. If he resorts to hard power in Gaza, he will face fierce resistance. These dynamics will inevitably derail Trump's broader ambitions to reshape American society and the international order under his so-called America First agenda. Like his predecessors, he will find that attempts to reshape geopolitical realities in the region through the barrel of a gun will only end in utter failure. And if we learned anything about Trump, it is that there is nothing Trump detests more than the sting of failure and the taste of defeat.